Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can hear me and you're ready for the afternoon session of the Qatar Food Safety Conference. Our first speaker after the session in the afternoon is Ms. Hala Mahul, who's the Group Safety Manager with Boyker International. Ms. Hala, are you able to hear me and ready for the presentation?
Hello, good afternoon. Yes, I am.
We can't hear you, Ms. Hala. I'm not sure if you can hear us from this side.
I can hear you. I can hear you,
okay,
actually.
That's fine. We can hear you now.
Yes. Shall I share my screen?
Hala has been working with Boyker International for quite some time now. She has 15 years of experience as a trainer, as a consultant for facility management systems. And she's also focusing on ISO systems, BRC, HACCP, and Global GAP. Ms. Hala, you're going to talk to us this afternoon about the food safety programs that you're focusing on and building a food safety culture in particular. So please go ahead with your presentation. Thank you.
You were able to see my presentation? Can you hear me? I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. So good afternoon, and thank you for the introduction. I will be presenting today building a food safety culture. Before starting the topic itself, I would like to have a quick brief about Boyker, the history of the company. We are a company who started in 1994. We cover pest management, food safety, and germ control services. When it comes to food safety, we have training services covering food hygiene, HACCP, occupational health and safety, etc. We have consultancy services covering all types of food safety management system, be it BRC, IFS, Global GAP, ISO 22000, HACCP. And we have for small and medium establishment, we have the kitchen audits as well. And we end up by have a range of food safety tools that we offer also for all type of food establishment, be it thermometers, data loggers, infrared, etc. So the topic of today will be speaking about building a food safety culture. Before talking about food safety culture itself, I would like to define a culture into an organization. What do we mean by a culture? It's a sentence that we hear a lot whenever we are in a job interview, for example, when we are a new joiner in a company, we hear this, how things are done around here. And this is actually what defines an organizational culture. It has a lot of intangible things, such as thinking, believing, behaving, yet the culture of the company is divided into sides. We have a formal system that covers the vision, the mission of the company, the procedures, the work instruction, information, job description, anything you can see in front of you, which is actually tangible. But on the other side, we have other things. We have the norms, we have the commitment, we have the behavior of the people. All that as well is part of the other side of the culture, and the culture itself is actually defined as well as the DNA of the company. So the DNA is divided in two. We have the formal elements of the DNA, and we have the informal elements of the DNA that is related 100% to the people behavior, feeling, thinking, and attitude inside a company. So this is a definition in general about culture. And if we keep on defining culture, we look at it as a metaphor, it's like an iceberg. The weight of the culture is below the surface. So the way we really get things done is below the surface. This is the assumptions, the perceptions, the norms, the values of a company. And whatever we see in front of us, not hidden and written actually, is the way we say we get things done, or the goals that we want to achieve in a company, the vision and the strategy of the company. So this will make actually culture a very important part of a company, not only when we talk about food safety culture. But our topic today is actually food safety culture. The Global Food Safety Initiative defines culture as shared value, beliefs, and norms that affect the mindset of people. And it will affect every single person inside a company dealing directly with food or indirectly with food, from the receiving of the raw material until dispatching of the end product. But what we know about culture as well, it does not live inside one individual. It lives in groups. So whenever you have a new junior coming into the company, the values are shared with him. So what is happening? We share a value, he's gonna go and put that into the operation inside a group. And it will become the behavior and the every day to day or the routine we do our job inside the company. So that will make actually culture quite hard to change. Why? Because you are not changing a formal system. You are not adjusting a procedure. What you are doing actually is you are changing the behavior of people. You are changing a mindset that you have here. And most of it is actually, I would say, maybe 100% unwritten and even sometimes unspoken. The WHO is estimated at least 1 in 10 people is getting sick due to the consumption of contaminated processed food or prepared by others. And we are saying that almost 50% of the cases of foodborne illnesses are due to a failure in a culture inside an organization. Yet, on the other hand, another study is saying in 2015 that senior leaders are betting a lot on culture to be able to all the challenges we have in order for us to have a sustainable business. So what do we need to do in order to build really a strong food safety culture? Culture is everyday behavior of the management, of the employees, of the food handlers. Why? Because they are the one working inside your business. So we rely on them to have a good food safety culture. So if I have a good food safety culture or a strong and positive culture, it means I'm making food safety really crucial and a commitment part on our day-to-day activities. But what we really need to know as food safety culture is not one size fits all. We cannot say, please give me a recipe in order for me to have a positive food safety culture. It cannot happen. We need to work on it and we need to spend time, and it is building year after year. Maybe the first year you establish your system of a good food safety culture. Second year, you maintain the implementation. Third year, you keep on improving. So what we need is the involvement of every single person inside the company, from the top management, moving to the senior management, medium management, employees, supervisor, etc. So let us see together. Why do I need to actually build a strong food safety culture? It's a big why. As simple as, who's running our business? Again, we ask ourselves, people. So food handlers, managers, supervisors, they are deciding, they are making the decisions. It's their feelings, they believe, and their attitudes. So it's very critical to have a very good food safety culture. The culture itself and the consumer habits and culture as well either will help us to contribute to a very good decrease in foodborne illnesses and outbreak, or in the opposite, it will contribute to have a higher food poisoning outbreaks and contamination hazard. So what do we need to see? It's what we should do in our organization to reach this positive food safety culture. We have to involve every single person in our business. In June 2020, the 7th June 2020, which is the World Food Safety Day, the slogan was really interesting. It was saying food safety is everyone's business. So you cannot say it's only the people who are working in the kitchen that are actually their own business is food safety only. No, we have to involve HR, we have to involve the training department, we have to involve the top management, the leaders. Everyone have actually a part to play in order to have a successful food safety practices inside the facility. So they need to make food safety very important, and food safety should be in practice every day the same way. So we don't wait for an inspection from the municipality or from the ministry. We don't wait for an audit to take place for me to put in place my practice. That should be my routine, I would say, a built-in. I should work properly. We're going to see it later on, as if no one is watching me. Exactly, it is coming here. So in order for you to have a strong food safety culture, you need to apply your practices on daily basis as if no one is watching you. And this is hard to do because we have tendency of human being. If I have a supervisor, I do my job properly. No, you have to do it even if no one is there, because it should be built in our culture. So we don't want only to pass an audit. So I'm just choosing random examples. We have some people, if they have an audit, they wake up in the morning, they adjust their documentation, they clean the kitchen, they make sure everything is okay because they have an audit on that day. And this is not a good food safety culture. And we all know that whenever we fix things, more or less, the mistakes will appear later on. So what I need is actually exceeding meeting compliance. I want to pass a very successful audit. And in my opinion, audits should be also passed whenever it's an unknown or not announced audit. That is very good for me, because if I excel here, it means my food safety culture is properly built. So what do I need to remove in my company in order to start putting in place a proper food safety culture? First, what I need is good leadership. So remove the barrier. The lack of leadership will cause indirectly a failure in your culture. And this is why I need the top management to be committed. In most of the food safety management system around us, we require the commitment of the top management, because without a commitment, we cannot reach anyway. We need the buy-in of the top management, and they need to lead. And we always say, please lead by example. Don't ask me something if you are not as well implementing and following it. Second, we definitely need to focus on the targets and the revenue of the company, but not on the disadvantage of food safety. Because believe me, one mistake in food safety will lead to brand damage, reputation will be ruined, we might pay the cost of it. So it's much better for me to have in place a very good food safety system that will indirectly impact my targets and my operation revenues. Third, follow the rules. Definitely we need to follow the rules, but you need to explain to people why they need to follow rules. It's very important the why. Don't tell them monitor temperature every 4 hours, but tell me why. You need to explain to them the reason, because behind the why, they will have the buy-in as well. They will understand the importance of implementing the food safety practices, and it will be much better in that case. If we don't explain, they might forget, because for them, it's not important. They don't know the reason out of it. Audits are not a priority, as we said it before. Okay, if I have an audit, I will fix my situation on the same day. And another problem that is hitting a lot of food businesses here is the high employee turnover. This high turnover will affect the culture. We have people coming in again. We need to re-communicate. We need to retrain. So it will shake my culture here. And another important point, failing to determine the root cause of my problems. All of us, we might encounter deviations in our day-to-day practices. It's okay if we identify the root cause or the reason, if we trigger investigation. Why did we deviate? Because whenever we know the why again, we will make sure that the next time we will not deviate. So we will prevent recurrence. Another thing that we need to remove, it's people behavior. And this is hard, much more than the previous slide, because you hear a lot this sentence, it will not happen to me. Food poisoning, never to me. You have to actually understand, you're not preparing food for yourself. You are preparing food for the crowd around you. Nothing has gone wrong. I know what I'm doing. So you have a lot of people that will refuse training, that will refuse to adapt to the changes around them, around whatever happening in the company, I would say. I'm doing wrong, but there is always a reason. You have a typical behavior, someone telling you, yes, I did a mistake, lack of resources, I don't have time. They will always find you a reason why they did not implement the food safety practices. And a last also behavior, there are more important things to do around here. I have an overbooked restaurant, I have people waiting for me, I have orders, so I'm not going to focus now on washing my hands, changing cutting boards, changing knife, etc. So it is because it is not built in the food safety culture. So whenever we remove the barrier, we work on the behavior of people, then we will start building this positive food safety culture. But the food safety culture, we need to work on it. So what are the requirements from the company to have a very strong food safety culture? First, And we will repeat it every time in anything inside a company. It's a management commitment. Again, without the buy-in of your top management, you cannot reach anywhere. You might start putting in place procedure, but it will later on fail. The management with a commitment will give you the appropriate resources. They will allocate a budget not only for the operation, they will allocate a budget for food safety itself. So you might have new equipment, you might have new utensils, as simple as adjusting your site, the layout of your facility, everything to match all the food safety practices, the regulation of the country, and the international regulation as well. And resources, we're not talking only about material. We are talking also about human resources. So a committed management will make sure we have enough personnel, will make sure we have enough supervisor, we have enough people implementing the work. So this is also related to the commitment of your top management. Now, as simple as having in place procedures and policies. We cannot operate without procedures and policies. They should be in place. So we do them once, we review them every year, definitely, but they should be there. We start by a vision, we go to a mission, then we write the procedure, and procedure involve every step in the facility. So that is clear. There are even posted on the wall inside the facility. We need visual aids for the employee to remember what they have to do. Now, having procedures and policies is excellent, yet what we need to ensure is consistency. So if we have them with lack of consistency, we are going to fail later on. So food safety is a day-to-day activity. It's not a single shot in the dark. It's not only when I have a ministry visit. It's not only when I have an audit. It's your day-to-day activity. And we need transparency. I need the people, the worker, anyone in the facility. We need transparency. We need to really understand what is happening around us. We need to report any failures, so we need a transparency system. And I would like to emphasize on the appreciation part. We all know that if a mistake or a deviation takes place in the facility, it's so easy to blame someone. We have the culture of blame. Yet, what we don't have is the appreciation culture. We should say, good job, great job, well done, thank you. We need even to create incentive programs for the people. If you have several branches, you can make the branch of the month, good employee of the month, best employee of the month. This will help people. It will give them a push, it will motivate them, and they will have pride and they will enjoy implementing food safety practices. Another set of positive points that should be in place, accessibility. I need an open door policy inside the company. I want to report something. Can I report, or I'm afraid to report it? Okay, I need responsibility, and responsibility is written inside the job description. Everyone in the whole facility organizational chart, we know what we have to do. We know our job, our responsibility, and our tasks. And all that will never be done without communication and training. So please communicate. And communication is important because this is how you explain to people why they have to do this, and when they have to do it, and how they have to do it. So, and it is informed through a training. We cannot blame someone if we did not inform him ahead of time that this is how the things are done in the company. So your culture should be informed. We need to preach this culture, and you do it through internal communication, you do it through nice and enjoyable trainings, and it's also the technical part that should be informed through a training, to inform people on the best practices for them to be aware of it. So whenever you come and you point a deviation, they cannot tell anymore, I don't know, no one informed me how to do it. And we will be closing the positive point of a company by having continuous improvement. So the food safety culture, definitely it should be in place. And first, second year, maybe we are struggling a bit to maintain it. Yet, on the long run, I don't want only to have a food safety culture in place. I need to improve. And improving, it's improving as well my business. So we have often this question that we ask ourselves. How do you monitor a food safety culture? It is so intangible. How can I monitor belief? How can I monitor activity of the people in terms of a mindset, understanding how things are gone? it is indirectly reflected into their day-to-day activities. So we have two ways of monitoring. The first way of monitoring, it's an ongoing monitoring technique, inspections, audit, checklists that we come and we see, are we compliant? Yes or no. And the purpose of the ongoing, it's to avoid accidents. It's to avoid food poisoning illnesses and to avoid contamination to take place. So I'm anticipating the problem. This is the main idea out of ongoing audit and inspection. The reactive monitoring, it's different. The reactive monitoring, I have a problem, and it might happen, honestly, even if we have very good systems in place. We might have, it's rare, but it can take place. We have outbreaks, we have recalls, we have contamination, we have situations. So what do we do here? We need to trigger a reactive monitoring that will help me and explain to me what happened. I will trigger the 5 why I have a deviation, and then I will understand the root cause analysis. Out of this deviation, it will help me and protect me later on to make sure it will not happen another time inside my facility. So that will make sure that my food safety culture is strong and I'm ready for anything to make sure that my food is safe and my customers are happy. So if I have in place a culture, which is most of the companies, they will tell you we have a place in culture, yet changing a culture as well is difficult. And good, I would say, reputable companies will not assess or trigger change of culture after a problem taking place. You need all the time to have KPIs in front of you and follow them and make sure your culture is still positive and giving you the expected results. So one of the KPI could be customer complaints. Are we receiving any customer complaint related to food safety? If yes, I have a breach on my culture. If no, it's good, I'm monitoring. Do I have any deviation when I'm having my checklist on day-to-day basis? What are the deviation? How many deviation? Is it a minor or a major? So I need to ongoing assessment. And when I feel that I need to change or deviate a bit my culture, and it's done ahead of time before hitting a big outbreak or a big problem that will affect my reputation, will go on social media, and it will be much harder for me to fix. So this is very important. It's to keep in mind that it is required sometimes to deviate or switch or adjust the culture. And remember, the first slide was started with the iceberg. We said most of the culture is hidden under the surface. So it's also written by Torben Rick saying that changing a culture, it's like changing the course of a large ship. And it's not easy because you have a lot of things that will work against you. If we keep in the metaphor here, you have the tides, you have the wind, you have the storm, and you have your iceberg hidden under the water. So don't do like the Titanic and hit this iceberg and go underwater. What we need to do, we have to be careful and make sure we're changing step by step and reaching this positive culture. Thank you for your time, and I'm done.
Thank you so much, Ms. Haller, for the excellent presentation on food safety culture. We have some input and feedback. I'll talk about that during the panel discussion. But it is a very useful presentation, and some key points you made were very pertinent for the food safety program. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you can please stop sharing the screen from your side.
I'm trying, yes. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That's great.
Thank you. Thank you.
And just to carry on with the next presentation, that will be by Richard Springer. I'm sure you all know Richard Springer. He's the chairman of the Highfield Group, which includes the Highfield Qualifications and Highfield International. They're one of the world's leadest awarding bodies, which recognize publications and also training presentations, as well as certification of training programs. Richard has been working closely with large organizations around the globe, which includes Marks and Spencer's, McDonald's, to mention a couple there, as well as the Gala Retail Services and the Prison Catering Service in the UK. He's also been involved in ministry, working with regulatory authorities in the UK, as well as other parts of the world. And he's providing a number of services through Highfield, which includes digital platforms, training materials to cover specific regions. They develop materials, bespoke materials for companies as well as international organizations. Richard, and today you're presenting on the practical approach of HACCP in a catering environment.
Yeah, thank you, Abdul. I'm just trying to share my screen at the moment. I don't know what's happened. There we go. Right, so hopefully everybody can hear me and everybody can see the screen. So thank you, Abdul, for the introduction, and good afternoon, delegates. I hope you're all enjoying this seminar and the excellent presentations we've seen so far. Now, all of you are interested in food safety, and all of you are aware that there are certain things that are key to ensuring the highest standards of food safety. One of those is certainly training, and particularly training of managers. That for me is the key training that needs to be carried out, training of managers. Also important is effective auditing, also very important, both internal and external auditing. Food safety culture, which we've just heard an excellent presentation from Hala, again, very important. But I think most of all, the most important thing for me is competence, and that's competence of managers to ensure that all of these things that we're talking about are of the highest standard and are applied effectively. And the final thing, and what I'm going to talk about, is food safety management systems, in particular, HACCP applying to catering. The reason I've chosen that is that over many, many years of experience, over 50 years of experience in food safety, I have seen many, many HACCP systems. The majority of premises that I've inspected over the years have not been able to implement an effective HACCP system. And there are various reasons for that I will include in the presentation. And so I thought I would particularly refer to catering because catering is probably about 99% of food businesses, certainly catering and retail together. So the chairman's given me the introduction, so I won't go on this particular slide and move on a little bit about Highfield. We said we're a global awarding organisation for vocational qualifications and qualifying over 500,000 learners a year. We have lots of accredited qualifications and particularly well known from my point of view from food safety, but we have lots more. As you can see, we've got over 26,000 training centres and trainers delivering Highfield qualifications in 65 countries. So it's quite a large company. We've approaching 300 employees, and we're involved with qualifications, products, e-learning, assessment methods, and of course we have the international branch, which is based, the office is based in Dubai. Now, one of the important things of whether it's training, whether it's competency, or whether it's HACCP, is that we all need to keep up to date with what is happening. And nowadays, it's so easy to keep yourself up to date with food safety matters. I'm sure many of you are involved with forums, food safety forums on LinkedIn and using other platforms. I'd commend you to look at the Highfield Food Safety Forum. It's free. You don't have to buy anything. It's just a way of us saying thank you to our customers to provide up-to-date information on food safety so people can keep up to date with what's happening, because what happens in one country today can happen in your country tomorrow. So problems are global, and we have to learn lessons from other companies and other countries. So keep yourself up to date, whether you use the Highfield Food Safety Forum or any other forum, it's most important, which is why we obviously have things like CPD points and so on, so people keep up to date. It's very important. Now, you're certainly aware of HACCP and its origins. So I just want to remind you, a food safety management system that identifies, evaluates and controls hazards which are significant for food safety. So what is significant with regards to hazards in catering? Well, obviously they could result in food poisoning or food complaints, particularly those relating to food complaints that cause harm. But I would also add that there are other things that make them significant. Obviously, if they could result in a recall, if they could result in a fine or a closure of the business, that also makes them significant. Even in some respects to a business, quality, even though quality is not seen as part of HACCP, sometimes quality is key to some company because of brand image. So we need to look at what is significant for your particular operation. Now, the main thing you will remember that in 1959, HACCP was commissioned by NASA for providing safe food from factories. It was never originally intended for catering. It was never designed for catering. It needs to be modified to ensure it's suitable for all catering businesses. Many countries have tried to implement, made it a legal requirement for HACCP to be mandatory in catering and retail businesses. And I can assure you that over years and years, the majority of catering businesses, particularly the smaller ones, the medium-sized ones, do not have effective HACCP systems in place. The larger ones, the five-star hotels, the big retailers, they will have HACCP in place. But the majority of businesses don't have what I would say was an effective HACCP system in place. And there are many reasons for that. The other thing I wanted to talk about was just to say that the HACCP now is very much part of the Codex General Principles of Food Hygiene, and they have recently, with their latest version, altered one or two of the things with regards to the principles of HACCP and the 12 steps of applying HACCP, and I've included those within the presentation. Now, it's not a one shop fits all. With HACCP, you have to be able to choose the food safety management system that you, within your business, are competent to manage and implement. Now, it may be that you've chosen a Codex application. Myself, I've never seen a full Codex application that I'd call a Codex application applied in catering, but some of you may believe that that's what has been implemented. And then you've got the ISO 22000. These are the more complex systems of HACCP that usually are particularly appropriate for manufacturing. Then you've got in the UK a system called Safer Food, Better Business. And this is a very, very simple system that even in theory, a vendor with a mobile vehicle could implement in theory. And my belief is that what we really need for the majority of catering businesses is a system that is something similar to the Scottish system, which is called CookSafe. Now, CookSafe I'm sure is not unique. I'm sure there are similar systems all over the world that governments have enacted, and that's fine. But it's a compromise. It's a compromise by the oversimplified systems and the more complex systems. Because remember, to implement HACCP satisfactorily, there should be somebody in the business that understands food safety and understands HACCP. And those of you involved in qualifications, that means that somebody really needs to be around the intermediate standard of food hygiene and HACCP as a minimum. They may want to be in the level 4, which is the management, but most businesses do not have people qualified or knowledgeable to that level of food safety. So it's very difficult to implement without that knowledge. So the first question you ask yourself in catering, which of our employees, which of our managers have actually the expertise to help us select the correct system for us? Now, you've got to look at some of the reasons. Why is it important to have an effective food safety management system? As you can see, you want to be able to produce safe food, protect health, minimize complaints. You want to be able to generate a good food safety culture, and HACCP certainly helps with that. Increase confidence in customers and enforcers and auditors. When auditors come round, when enforcement officers, food inspectors come round, they want to see an effective HACCP being effectively implemented. The HACCP system is brilliant because it's proactive, it's not reactive, so it's a very good system. You don't want to have poor media coverage and bad brand image, and you want to minimize the risks of spreading COVID. We heard about earlier about COVID-19, food businesses, and a HACCP approach will certainly assist in mitigating the risks of spreading COVID. And you want to meet businesses, customers, and certification requirements. Some of the reasons for the failure of HACCP, as we've just heard with regard to culture, the most important thing is a commitment from management. Now, this is the directors, this is the board, this is the actual company. That's where the main commitment comes from. A lack of that, and your HACCP will fail. Poor management, your HACCP will fail. A lack of food safety knowledge and training and competence, again, your management will, your system will fail. Poor hygiene practices. Prerequisites in catering are so important. I said about significant hazards, pest control, personal hygiene, cleaning and disinfection, all prerequisites, but all essential in ensuring that we control significant hazards. The fact that too many businesses have been persuaded to put it in a system that is too complex, that is put in by external consultants that they don't understand and can't implement. And if that happens, the consultant may be happy, but the business is not going to have an effective HACCP in place. Lack of resources and time. It does take time to implement the system properly. Poor records, too much paperwork. I do believe with the digital age here that going for systems that don't involve much paperwork, that are automatic, you know, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, etc., for fridge temperatures and things like this are so important. Minimize the amount of paperwork. And systems that are not science-based with unreliable controls and poor critical limits. So let's look at the implementation of HACCP. You'll all be familiar with this. Assemble the HACCP team and confirm the scope, describe the product, identify the intended use, construct a flow diagram, and on-site confirmation of the flow diagram. Let's look at that now in a catering context. The first thing is, are you going to have a team? Who can be in that team? It's not like manufacturing. Determine if the catering business has sufficient in-house expertise to form a HACCP team, or do you need to bring in consultants? But remember, not to implement the HACCP, not to do the system, but to be part of the team. What training is required by the people within the business and within the team? What is the scope? which systems or which hazards you're going to look at, etc. So that's the first part. Too many varying products, inadequate information about products. It's sufficient really to understand food types. You don't need to describe the product in detail. You don't need to know the pH or the water activity of every product. You don't need to know specifically which organisms are going to be the specific organisms of concern. You need a generic approach, something like cooking to 75 degrees centigrade to destroy any vegetative pathogen that may be present. Be aware of the abuse that could happen, the takeaways, the problems with takeaways. Mass catering introduces additional abuse. Users, vulnerable users, the system should be safe for everybody. You don't know who's coming into your restaurant, whether there's somebody from who's just got out of hospital, whether they're elderly, whether they're pregnant, whether they're very young. You've got to make sure your system is safe for everybody. If you are supplying to vulnerable groups in particular, such as hospitals, then it's the contamination aspects is the most important thing probably. So your system is safe, but you have to increase personal hygiene, improve clean and disinfection, reduce shelf lives, things like that, additional. And avoid dangerous foods. There are so many dangerous foods. I haven't got time to go into all of them, but things like raw oysters, rare beef burgers, things like that, all important. Construct a flow diagram that covers the whole process and additional high-risk processes. You don't need a flow diagram for every product or every menu item. Go for a generic one like CookSafe, and then validate the flow diagram. Right.
Richard, just to go, just
the HACCP team needs.
Just 3 minutes, Richard, for the presentation.
Yep. I've been through that, and then going into, notice the things in pink are the additional ones from the Codex 2020 guide, conduct hazard analysis and identify control measures in principle 3, establish validated critical limits. Right. So establish a system, monitor control of the CCPs, establish corrective actions to be taken when monitoring indicates deviation from a CCP has occurred. Validate the HACCP plan and then establish procedures for verification to confirm the HACCP system is working as intended, and then establish documentation. The things in pink are the additions from the Codex 2020. So a whistle-stop show of what the catering HACCP could look like and should look like. If anybody, I love to answer questions. If anybody wants to ask me anything later, send me an email. I'd be pleased to do so. So thank you all for listening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference, and I'll see you at question time.
Thank you, Richard, for the presentation. And yes, of course, we will have a panel discussion where participants can actually ask questions or ask for clarifications on what you described. It's a very important area of concern because catering is one of those areas that you provide large volumes of food to different locations. So that's great. Thank you so much. And if you could just move the screen. While we're doing that, let me introduce the next presenter. The next presenter is Dr. Abdulaziz. Dr. Abdulaziz is the Managing Director at MRS International Food Consultants based in Dubai. He obtained his MSc degree in HACCP from the University of Salford in the UK, and then a PhD in food safety from the University of Putra in Malaysia. He has worked in government departments, more particularly the Dubai Municipality Food Department, for over 17 years as an enforcement officer, and then moving on to the commercial side, opening up a business, MRS Consultants, working with businesses in developing, implementing HACCP and ISO projects. Dr. Abdulaziz is going to talk about the evaluation of and the effectiveness of food safety training and achieving good hygiene practices. Dr. Abdulaziz, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Abdrashis, for introducing me, and thanks to organizers to invite me in this prestigious program. Good afternoon, everyone. Global food hazards. The landscape of foodborne illness is in flux, and preventing foodborne illness is a global challenge. According to Horizon Scan by Feral Science, data collected from 2015 to 2018 related to global food hazards, which indicate 31.6% involved in microbial food hazards. These microbes essentially conveyed to food via food handlers. In March 2010, two children of 5 years old boy Nathan and his sister 7 years old Chesla died after consuming a takeaway meals from one of the restaurants in Dubai, followed by public prosecutor charged the doctor, supervisor, and cook with negligence. The outline: introduction, research topic, research problems, significance of study, objectives, literature review, methodology, pilot study, data analysis, actual study result for group A and B, observation result, reliability analysis, and conclusions. My presentation today is about food safety training. The topic is effect of food safety training on achieving good hygiene practices in restaurants in Dubai Emirates. Introduction. Hygiene practices of food handlers in the various restaurants have considerable significance in every step of food chain, starting from the production to the preparation of food services. According to reports collected from different restaurants of Dubai, it has been that outbreaks of foodborne illness also due to improper temperature under which food is stored or prepared and insecure source from where the food is collected with the unhygienic stuff. Food hygiene is more than cleanliness, and foodborne illness has enhanced the global concern regarding food safety. Food handlers or the person who handling food, regardless of which they prepare or serve the food, they play important roles in preventing foodborne illness or foodborne diseases. Food safety training is mandatory in many countries around the globe. Dubai Emirates, one of the example. Information regarding food handlers practices are very key thing to address. The trend of increasing foodborne illness also keep on increasing. Thus, preventing foodborne disease is necessary and vital. It is necessary to get cooperation from all people working in the food chain and handling it. In the present study, in the developing countries, the foodborne diseases are the leading issue that threaten well-being of the people. Previous research studies shown that there are three main factors which play decisive role in development of food safety incidents or food poisoning in regards to food handlers. These are personal hygiene practices and food safety practices in terms of dealing and serving food. Research problems. The problem is that food service employees are not performing up to the standard, and shortcoming related to time temperature control, improper hygiene, and cross-contamination. In 2012, the majority of foodborne illness outbreak, which is reported by Food Safety Department in Dubai, was associated with the restaurant. Above resulted foodborne illness due to food service employees non-compliant with the behavior or food hygiene practices with the important food safety guidelines. The significance of study. This study evaluated the effectiveness of demonstration involving use of thermometers and hand washing and disinfection practices, other hands-on hygiene practices or activities during the food safety training program for food handlers. Also, this study could lead to improved attitude towards food safety and improved food hygiene practices of the employees in food service area and food safety related tasks. The objective of this study was to evaluate the effectiveness of using demonstration in training session to improve the food safety practices of the food handlers or employees. Instead, knowledge on practices of food handling and evaluating the current food hygiene practices in Dubai, Emirates, or in the restaurants based on well-established current good practices, CGPs. To come up with developing a suitable and effective instrument, a comprehensive literature review has been performed in the similar area of research study. Some studies have come up with a positive result. However, some are with a negative result. Filling and Soon and Seaman come up with a positive result. However, York and Campbell conclude with a negative result. Also, some researchers conclude with establishment whose food handlers were mandated to participate in training and certification program showed improved inspection scores. Also, establishment whose food handlers voluntarily participated such programs showed improved inspection score. In control group, no food handlers received training showed no improvements in the inspection scores. Others also concluded that training was an effective way of improving compliance with the food safety guidelines. Methodology. The quantitative research design was adopted in this study. It uses a systematic random sample where the population of the study is food handlers from the commercial, independent restaurant and chain restaurant licensed to sell food in Dera and Bar Dubai. Six independent restaurants consisting 63 employees were invited to participate voluntarily as a control group, which are not received any food safety training. 8 other independent restaurants consisting of 90 employees also invited as intervention group, and they are also not attended any type of food safety training. Participate restaurants. Control group A consisting 2 Indian restaurants, 2 Pakistani restaurants, and 2 Arabic restaurants. Intervention group, which consists 3 Indian restaurants, 3 Pakistani restaurants, and 2 Arabic restaurants. Followed by selection, 6 hours training is carried out in 2 weeks intervals. 2 types of questionnaire for measuring employees' food safety knowledge and practices were administered to control and intervention group before and after food safety training. Food safety performance also was evaluated by trained auditors through the on-site observation program technique with food safety practice observation form. Variables. The dependent variables is measured in the experiment to look for the possible effect on dependable variables on independent variables, which are numerical, discrete, such as thermometer use, how to wash hands, when to wash hands, and cleaning and sanitization. Now, the pilot studies technique is used in this study to evaluate the questionnaire validity. The pilot study was done to help the point out any flaws or error that might be committed during the construction of the instrument. The finding of present study are used, revise and refine the instrument questions to enhance the reliability and validity of the final instrument in this study. These two samples, which is not included in the actual study, one from their side, another from Bardubai side, was used for pilot study. This result for pilot study B. Now, data analysis. A quantitative approach was used to analyze the data. A post system had applied to collect the quantifiable and observable data using quantitative approach. Since detailed data has been collected using the survey method, the scientific method that have been used in this study, which is kind of like observation and description of the research subject. Hence, the descriptive research design has been used here, where the information has been collected in a tabular form. For the evaluation of food handlers, pre and post food safety knowledge has been evaluated. The average and standard deviation is calculated and paired t-test with the cutoff point of p-value less than 0.05. Statistical level significance is carried out for testing level of the significance. Now, the actual study result for the A and B group. According to the analysis presented in table 1 and 4.
Dr. Abdulaziz, if you just can please come to the summary of the findings. We're running out of the presentation time. That's just a general reminder.
All right. Okay, I'm coming to the result. Yes. Okay. In comparison of pre and post or between this intervention and control group, the test analysis showed that significant difference in the level of food safety knowledge between the two groups. Pre-test score for the control group was 78.33 and post score was 104.66. In the case of intervention group, the pre-test score was 91.33 and post-training score was 130.75. With the food safety knowledge after training, the results showed that the level of knowledge of food safety from trained group improved more than that non-trained group. In this study, the significant changes in the knowledge were detected the potential effect of training was verified. Here you see the result as a table form. The average score for the pre-training result for the control group was 78.33, and the p-value, which was declared less than 0.05. The low p-value indicate the data is incompatible with the null hypothesis. For the control group A, post-training result was the total average score 104.66, and for the pre-training result for the intervention group, the total average was 91.37, and post-training score for the intervention group for the B group was 130 or 130.75. Also, the p-value was less than 0.05, which also indicates the data is incompatible with the null hypothesis. The result of observation for control group, here you see that the post-training observation result is much higher than pre-training observation result for 6 restaurants, which indicate that the post-training effect or knowledge for the employees is increased. Similarly, for the control group, the post-training observation result is much higher than pre-training observation result for the 8 restaurants, which is B group, which indicate that the training is very effective after the training and observation. Now, food handlers, food safety practices for food for the control group, pre-treatment score was 470 and post-training score was 646. For the intervention group, pre-test score was 723 and post-test score was 1056. Now, the score for the post-training hygiene practices rated high at 646 and 1056 compared to pre-training practices which rated 470 and 723, which shows significant difference between pre and post-training. Hence, this result supported the possibility that employees who attend the training, their food safety practices are increased significantly due to increased knowledge. A reliability analysis is conducted to validate the consistency of the data. Cobalt alpha is 0.7425, which indicate good level of internal consistency in the data. The study also concludes that training is an effective way of improving compliance with the food safety guidelines. There is a presence of restaurant food safety shortcoming related to time, temperature control, improper hygiene, cross-contamination. The study also recommends training, improving food safety knowledge and personal hygiene practices among food handlers. Thank you for attending.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abdulaziz. That was an interesting study on the impact of training and the output on hygiene standards in Dubai. So that's a very, very useful information that we've just listened to. And please remain online to be part of the panel discussion after the next presentation.
Right.
Our next presentation is from Mr. Vinod. Mr. Vinod has 18 years experience as a quality assurance and technical role within the food industry, manufacturing industry. Also, he's been involved in quality control and consultancy certification and training over the years. And he's also a training partner in food schemes such as the BRCGS and QMS, FMS programs. So in terms of the presentation, it's an overview of food safety and Industry Standards. Mr. Vinod, he's with Bureau Veritas based in Qatar.
I can take the floor, Mr. Abdul Rashid.
Yes, Mr. Vinod, please carry on.
A very good afternoon, everyone. And I think, Mr. Abdul Rashid, I'll be given an additional 5 minutes for this presentation.
Thank you.
With that confidence, I'm moving. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. And first of all, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the organizers, the eminent speakers, and the participants, sponsors, etc. And ladies and gentlemen, and myself, Vinod. And I work as a certification manager with Bureau Veritas operation. And we had a very interesting session from the morning. I'm not going to not talk the same subject again. I thought of what could be the subject which could benefit all the targeted audience. So I came out with this topic of overview of food safety standards. So we have a perception food safety standards are very limited, which are very like only HACCP standard or 22,000 standard. So I thought of exploring opportunity. I'm living in Qatar for last 6 years. I interacted with several clients, suppliers, or other people. Like most of them are not completely aware about other standards, the options available in the market. So I'm going to take you across the various standards which could be benefited for all the industries and individuals as well. And I work for the company for Bureau Veritas, which I already mentioned. So I'm not going to talk much about Bureau Veritas. We are a French flagship company. We are operating from our Paris in more than 140 countries. As far as Qatar is concerned, we are operating from 1984, and we manages all the certification activities and training related activities, and we hold various accreditation. Food safety is also our core business. I heads the overall business line. So what is Bureau Veritas? Bureau Veritas is a business to society that a company. Our mission is to shaping a world of trust by ensuring responsible progress. That is all about our organization. These are all our facts, figures, which could be retrieved later also from the website. And this is all our strength and capability. Our values, the 4 key values of Bureau Veritas: trusted, ambitious, humble, responsible, and open and inclusive. These are all the 4 key core values of Bureau Veritas. We follow the 3 absolutes. One is safety, other one is ethics, the third part is financial control. What could be the challenges in the food industry? Every industry now we have participants from farm to fork, various people. Like we have suppliers, traders, brokers, we have manufacturers, we have caterers, we have restaurant people. Many people are observing this session. And who could benefit from what? What we have to exactly do that. Many people mention about the catering operation, COVID, post-COVID. A gentleman was talking about the regulations and all. Like this are all key requirements which are mandatory to be followed. Is it a ISO or other standard? Is it a mandatory requirement? No, it is a voluntary requirement, but it's up to the client to go for it, whether it is optional. Sometimes it could be a customer requirement where we have to proceed. The common challenges could be basically on market access, ensure product safety, demonstrate sustainability, and like promote quality and all the traceability throughout the chain. Where we need a certification, is it a government is mandating on certification? Yes, to some extent, some of the areas they mention about that HACCP is a key requirement, and some, like for example, like Supreme Committee of Delivery Legacy, they are enforcing that a caterer to be, or anybody supporting for Supreme Committee to be ISO 22000 certified. Like it became a customer or legal requirement where we have to abide by that. There are other product certifications also there in terms of like standards like BRCGS. Still people will have impression this is a 17021 requirement or it is ISO requirement, but BRC is actually a product certification. Even IFS standards, which we are going to see in the later slides, they also talk about the product safety and quality. So let me take you across each standard now. So as I mentioned about the farm to fork principle, everybody contribute to the farm to fork principle, like production, trading, and hospitality, retail business. Everybody, like for each segment, there are specific standards available. It is up to the organization to go for which certification is more suitable for them. Let me share some key GFSI requirements. So what is GFSI? GFSI is Global Food Safety Initiative. They are managed by Consumer Goods Forum, operating from Paris. Some of the prominent standards which are benchmarked. What is benchmark? Which is something like authenticated by GFSI. Okay, these standards are really foolproof, which will give global recognition. That is called benchmark. There is no rocket science in this. So one is FSSC 22000, which stands for Food Safety System Certification. Second is BRCGS, Brand Reputation Compliance for Global Standards. IFS, International Feature Standards, and Global Gap. And we have SQF, which is more applicable for US market. And we are going to cover about some elements of 22,000 requirement. A new standard is 2018 version. Also, we are going to talk about FEMIQS, we are going to talk about GMPS, and we are going to talk about HACCP. The previous speakers have covered about the HACCP latest requirement of 2020 as well. Seafood, like Vinod, is it practically possible? Can we implement this seafood certification? Do we have a market potential? Is it really going to help Qatar? Qatar is a growing market. So we are emerging. See, look at the factor in down the line 1 year, we are going to face the global event of World Cup. The whole world is watching. We have a vision of 2030 also. So the country is expanding like anything. Look at 5 years back, we don't have any much food manufacturing facility, but now a lot of food manufacturers are coming, food packing manufacturers are coming, farms are coming. So Qatar is a growing market. Definitely this will also support. You can say that no, there are no potential in the seafood in Qatar. If you say that, yes, but probably we may be sourcing some seafood across the globe. You can have a control point with our supplier. Guys, if we need to procure a seafood, you need to be certified for MSC, Aquaship Stewardship Council, or Marine Stewardship Council, or a chain of custody. So you can also put this control over your suppliers, and which will also support your system to enhance your food safety performance. What are the other sustainability things which can support the like food safety certification? There are SMITA, like there are responsible sourcing. Now, for example, brands like Hilton, I don't know any participants are Hilton, but they mandate that like any suppliers, they should be certified for SMITA compliance, or else we don't want to be listed yourself as a supplier. Like that, you can also come out with this kind of controls. Your supply should be like SMITA, which is talking about a social and ethical audits. Likewise, I'm going to take you across each SAI platform like Rainforest Alliance, Roundtable Sustainable Palm Oil Certification, and other farming certification. So let me start with FSSC 22000 version 5. The current version is version 5.1. So what is version 5.1? How these versions get frequently updated? There is no predefined time. The scheme owners are based in Dutch and their Netherlands. Whenever there are scheme gets updated, or whenever they have to comply with the GFSI requirement, they get in line with that. So the reason 5.1 was published in April 2020. So any organization opting for this certification, they have to go for version 5.1 requirement. So what is this FSSC 20000? It is a combination of ISO 20000 standard, it's a PRP standard, and additional requirement which are laid down by the standard. So we know which company can go for this certification in food industry. The retail can go, the catering people can go, the transport and storage company can go, and food manufacturing can go, packing manufacturing can go, animal feed and farming, everybody can go. See, this is not a sales or a sales platform. I'm here to just share the knowledge, what are all the options available here. I'm just representing myself as a food safety expert to share the knowledge. It is completely independent decision of the organizations. If you really want to go, you can do an evaluation, who is best, and you can go for it. Second is, again, BRCGS I mentioned, Brand Reputation Compliance for Global Standard, which is globally recognized. There are more than 30,000 organizations certified worldwide. And they are representing from UK, United Kingdom, basically. They do have a different schemes like food, packaging, agents and brokers, storage and distributions. And they have gluten-free, and also they are coming with social ethical standards. And they are really strong enough. So for example, any manufacturer which are exporting to UK market, or if you're procuring any materials from UK, you can look for this authentication of BRCGS, which will support your business performance. So these are all the scope category. Just want to bring to your attention. Of course, obviously I'm not going to read every slide, and obviously the presenters may share the slides on later part. or else I'll share my numbers, or you can also visit to BRCGS website. This informations are very much publicly available. We have to invest time to just go through and refresh ourselves, nothing else. So the listed companies can offer food safety. The other companies can go for packing manufacturing, like glass, paper, like metal manufacturings, and chemical process, global distributions, and agents and brokers. So these are all the options available for BRCGS standard. Okay, IFS. What is this IFS? IFS stands for International Feature Standards. Basically, it's a German certification. There are a different accreditation body here, and this supports for product safety and quality. Okay, related to this. So again, if you have any target customers towards German market, an IFS would be the right choice. They do have a different schemes like food, logistics, wholesale cash carry. Wholesale cash carry is basically for your retail market, like shops like Carrefour or Almira or whatever it is. And brokers, and you have HPC and Pack Secure and Market Food. So there are more than 7 schemes exclusively available for IFS schemes. So you have any customers or you are getting any product from German, this would be the right certification. So what is global gap? Basically, global gap stands for good agriculture practices, and we do have different accreditation, NAC, PCA, OA accreditation, and basically to ensure that there are no issues arising from the farmers in the agricultural areas. So this also give more foolproof to our customers. So the global gap also comprised of crops, aquaculture, CMF, chain of custody. There are different here. If you have any customers in the overseas market, like from Vietnam or other South Asian country, you're procuring turmeric, rice, anything like that, you can also look for this. Are you certified for global gap? Like you can also put as a control point when you're doing a vulnerability assessment related to the suppliers. SQF program is basically, as I mentioned, it is for US market. Like you have any targeted customers in US, SQF would be the right choice. And SQF families for food safety and quality codes. And there are for primary production, storage and distribution, food packaging, manufacturing, retail, quality, food service. By this point of time, you might have a question, why there are so many standards, which we have to go for it? Is it obligatory whether we have to comply all standard? Is it not confusing to have multiple standards? I said, again, it depends upon your local requirement, your customer requirement, and your organizational commitment. Whichever it is going to enhance your business performance, you have to have for it. When I say GFSI scheme requirement, all are in line as per GFSI. So it is up to the organization, whichever the GFSI recognition is going to enhance your business, you can go for it. So again, it is best aquaculture practices. Let me take you across some food and feed safety certification. Now 2018 is a current version, which is in line as per the high level structure. Now there are some organizations may adopt other 9,001 requirement or 14,000 requirement or 45,000 health and safety requirement. This new standard is very much in line with the high level structure. For example, when you talk about 4 context of the organization, this standards is also will talk about context. When you talk about 5 leadership, this standard will also. So it is like amalgamation. People can complement each standard. So a company can go for multiple certification at the same time. So new version is 2018. The older version 2005 will be superseded by end of this year, December 29th. So from next year, it is 100% any company opting for 22,000 certification, 2018 version would be the choice. And unfortunately, this is not a GFSI approved scheme. Why we know FSSC is GFSI approved, why 22,000 is not a GFSI approved scheme? A simple basic answer is 22,000 is a very generic answer. Generic standard, and all the prerequisite programs related to 22,000 are very generic. This is applicable for any organization, need not to be one particular segment. So GFSI need a PRP to be very much specific to the site. That's why like the 22,000 is not benchmarked till date as per GFSI. Talking about FEMIQS, which is for feed safety, legality and quality. I'm not sure, but I heard from somebody there are some organization coming for feed manufacturing units locally. And if any participant from feed ingredients or feed chain activity, and you can go for this. And we have GMP plus, and again, it is based on the HACCP principles. There are 3 types of certification, B1, B2, B3, etc. It's a G. It's basically for compound feed and production of feed materials and feed additives. And the B3 is for basically for trade and transshipment. So GMP Plus is a Dutch requirement accreditation, like good manufacturing practices in line with the HACCP requirement, and it depends on your organization nature of business. B1, B2, B3 can be certified. Again, coming back to the HACCP one, like as I mentioned, HACCP is a very basic standard, but I would like to appreciate Richard was taking more time on talking about the principle. Yes, I completely agree with him. Still, many organizations fail to implement the basic HACCP system, and they talk about the big standards. Yes, the element is not only approaching the consultants or a certification body or training provider, the organization themselves need to have a own commitment. As Hala mentioned, like cultural changes. The other gentleman was previously talking about a regulatory requirement and all. So HACCP plays a very crucial role. Now the current HACCP requirement is 2020 version standards, and these are unaccredited standards. Each certification body perform the assessment annually. They do that, including us, and we provide this HACCP certification. Again, it is a choice of the organization. So coming back to sustainability, I think still I have five more minutes of time, so I can complete my presentation within the time. The first one we are going to talk about UTZ. Second is Marine Steward Council. The third is Aquaculture Stewards Council. Fourth is AOES, and fifth is VLOG, and sixth is SAI platform, and seventh is RSPO, and eighth is META, and ninth is related to McDonald's SQMS system. So what is UTZ? It is like a rainforest alliance exclusively for farming of coffee, cocoa, and tea crops. I know it's very much ruled out in Middle East or GCC region to have this, but if you're sourcing any materials like your coffee or in a bulk, if you're doing a trading, if you're doing any kind of repacking, you can always demand for this rainforest alliance certification from your your client or your customer. MSc, they commenced from 1997. Okay, they have two standards. One is exclusively for fishery assessment, and second is for chain of custody traceability system. A gentleman was talking about a blockchain technology. Yes, we are far 1991 this has been started, but still people are not aware about the blockchain technology. Over a period of years, trust me, this is going to rule the world, and by sitting in one place we can able to conquer all the information. So this standards also will talk about a fishery assessment, and second is talking about the chain of custody, which is a traceability system. The third one is talking about Aquaculture Stewardship Council, and this is basically for species which mentions there Pangasius, tilapia, and salmon, trout, shrimps, and these are all the common things. And anybody is doing such kind of farmings, and if they go for this Aquaculture Stewards Council, and definitely it will support the business performance. The other one is gluten-free certification. I know this is all very new into the market. We have not reached to that level. Basically, the celiac disease. There are many people affected with this particular disease. They are traveling all across the globe. They are not remaining in one place particularly. So the AOECS basically they're into promote this gluten-free certification all across the globe. So people when they travel here, they don't get affected on this. So it is a gluten-free certification, which is also a good one, reliable one. The other one is genetically modified one. A gentleman previously also touched that subject about the genetic engineering, which was quite interesting. So it could be a GMO-free certifications can also be there. Whether you can have a label. Many people do a fraudulent things. They claim that is it GMO-free. How we have to? Are we authenticate that information? Are they providing that? Whether any substantial evidence is there? So we need to be that. Noted, Mr. Abdul Rashid. Yeah. And the SAI platform, the Farm Sustainability Assessment, basically, it's a platform very much available for a tool has been established. Giant food products like Coca-Cola, Unilever, they have adopted this FSA, and this can also be adopted like Farm Sustainability Assessment, and we can also ensure that whether are we in line with this requirement or not. RSPO, Roundtable Sustainable Palm Oil, basically it is for Malaysian market. If you're sourcing any palm oil in a bulk manner from Malaysian region, and this could be the prominent certification. SMETA, I already mentioned about that. This is for a 4-pillar audit for labor, health, safety, environment, and business ethics. You can also promote this to your supplier, encourage them to follow this SMETA. And understanding responsible sourcing audit is also available. Like companies like Unilever, They ensure that all their suppliers are URSA compliant. The last is McDonald's. If you are a supplier of McDonald's locally available, I'm sure there are more than 30-40 outlets locally available here. You are expected to comply as per the SQMS requirement. Please comply to that. Those are in line as per 9020-2020 Part 1 requirement. So finally, Qatar regulations. Also previously, many speakers mentioned about the regulation. I would like to also re-emphasize on the same, which has been published. Let's understand the legal requirements very thoroughly and take the country to the next level. And you have further questions. 20 minutes is too short for me to present, although you can take a note of this. If you have any specific questions, you can write to me. I'm happy to clarify to do so. Overall, thank you very much.
Thank you, Vinod. That was a very well-timed and precise presentation, very clear, and gave a very good overview of all the different types of certifications which are available for the food industry, whether you're a producer or potential exporter to different markets. All those are very, very key. And thank you again. That was a very, very good presentation.
Much appreciated, Abdul Rashid. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Now we've got the panel discussion, and we're going to, of course, we've got Ms. Hala, Dr. Abdulaziz, and Vinod online, talking about the topics that we covered in this afternoon session number 3. First of all, Hala, what are your feelings on the growth of food safety culture in Qatar? It's a very difficult one, I know. You talked a bit about monitoring, but as you know, sometimes we feel that in the GCC we are still, I'm not saying this in a negative way, but to describe the situation, an immature market when it comes to food safety culture. So how do you feel on that, based on your president, you mentioned a few points there?
Well, I'm not negative when it comes to food safety culture in Qatar or in the GCC. I would say no, we did a lot of milestone, and what helped a lot the F&B is not only we had to go there, the customer itself pushed the F&B department to move towards a positive food safety culture. You can see around us now, everyone is involved in food safety. It's very rare to have a customer or a consumer not aware of the food safety practices. So indirectly, this pressure, I would say a positive pressure, will push the company itself to implement a food safety culture inside. And it is happening due to all the audits and inspection we are seeing around. Definitely, if you ask me, I would tell you we have categorization. It cannot be all of them A or A+. We have very good food safety cultures. We have company working on building a food safety culture. The pandemic itself had a positive as well approach on the F&B. Most of them would say, no, it is a negative thing. We were affected in terms of business, but in terms of culture, we were not, because this new virus that was introduced pushed again the F&B, because we don't want food poisoning, and we don't want as well the people to think that we are not serving safe food. So what shall we do? That it enforced again that food safety culture. So as a whole, if you tell me where we are doing well. We definitely need more maintenance to maintain it as it is, because this is the challenge. You can build food safety culture, but what is more challenging, it's to maintain it and move on later on to improve it as well.
Thank you, Hala. Thank you for that. There's a few inputs that we had from participants. One was mentioning that it's important, you mentioned that the staff should not just do what they are supposed to be doing, but also actually believe in what they are doing. So there's a reason for doing whatever has to be done. So hand washing is done not because they want to have to comply with regulatory requirements, but it is a responsibility that they have in terms of impacting other people's health. And maybe we can look at discussing how we can introduce empathy into the discussion when we talk about culture and food safety. What is the output of the program that we implement, like HACCP or training programs? Yes, it's regulatory requirements, but also at the end of the day, we're talking about human food that's going in somebody else's body. And that can give a negative or a positive impact on their health. Most of the time it's positive, but there are times that it can be negative. So that's why we have to focus on that in terms of linking, let's say, use the term moral responsibility, not in a religious context, but a responsibility of human to human interaction between food provider and food consumer. Vinod, in terms of standards, we have a portfolio of standards that you mentioned. Some of these standards that you mentioned, of course, are international global standards like BRC and SQF and these programs. How relevant are some of these standards in the Middle East? Let's say BRC, as you mentioned, is very specific to the UK, and SQF is very specific to the US, perhaps. Do you find, as a certification body, that you have inquiries to implement some of these programs within Qatar as well?
Right. As I mentioned during my session, Abdul Rashid, frankly speaking, 6 years back, the awareness level was quite down. Okay, so people were only talking about HACCP. Then we have taken whatever we could contribute to the market, along with others. We travel together because we cannot take ourselves a complete claim. As a team, we collectively started promoting this culture. They went to 22,000. Now, if you look at here, we have many inquiries started coming for BRCGS, and we have more than 7-8 organizations already certified for FSSC 22,000. So the awareness part is really increasing that, and we are looking forward. Also, you have to see how 5 years that the market has improved in Qatar due to various reasons, whether it is a positive or negative. Qatar is completely independent now. So they want to stand on their own leg, and so although with the support from the other neighboring countries, so there are growing potentials for other schemes as well.
That's great. That's great. I think we have a comment back from participants saying that it was a very good overview of food safety standards you presented. This is from the participants, so that was another very positive feedback that we've got on your presentation. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Richard, in terms of where do we go now? We've got HACCP, we've had HACCP for so many years. What is the next stage? Where do we go from here now?
I think we've had HACCP since the 90s, effectively. To me, and I said in my presentation, the most important thing we've got to focus, that is more important than anything, I honestly believe, is competence. And it's the competence of managers. It's having a manager in charge of the staff who is fully trained and understands everything about food safety within that business. It's not just about training the staff externally, it's about making sure somebody internally can continue with that training on a daily basis to ensure everything's implemented. And that's the main way of building up a positive food safety culture. And so the key, as per the FDA, when they've looked at having a trained manager in charge of food businesses, results in higher standards. I think that's everything. And competency isn't just about the food handlers. Competency is about all of us. It's about trainers being competent and giving the right information. It's about auditors being competent and doing a good job. It's about enforcement officers being competent. It's about everybody being competent and ensuring that together, if we are all competent, then with all the systems that we've got, we will undoubtedly have much higher standards in terms of food safety, much better and improved continuous positive food safety culture, and a reduction in complaints. So my plea is think in terms of systems that ensure that you have competent managers that understand HACCP, that understand food safety culture, that understand the food codes, understand the regulations, and can ensure they're properly applied within their business.
Thank you, Rashid. That's very informative in terms of where you think we need to be going next. Dr. Abdulaziz, you mentioned about the impact of training on practices, and just going back to what Hala was saying and what Richard just mentioned now, it would be good to have some sort of a study on the level of competency or positive, whatever you want to call that study, in terms of the next level up. You talked about food handlers, but as we realize that food handlers are not always the key players, but the management commitment, the commitment to food safety systems and management programs, these are decided at a much higher level than the food handlers themselves. So I think there needs to be some sort of a bridge built between your findings in the level of food handlers and practices they're changing, do we have a change of behavior or understanding or commitment from the management level? Senior managers, board members, owners included in that as well. Something you could perhaps look at in the future.
Okay, well, these food handlers, they are directly dealing with the food. They should understand the basic principles of the food safety or food hygiene, because the managers, it is not necessarily all the time is present. Maybe, for example, in an organization, maybe 200 employees, maybe 1 or 2 managers there. So who is handling the food directly? Food handlers. So the first of all, they should be trained in basic food safety knowledge, because they are the one handling the food directly. Then management also required higher level training. That is, I'm not neglecting that. That also improve the food safety standard in an organization. However, the important or a basic factor here is that the employees must be trained in basic food safety knowledge, because they are the one all the time directly dealing with the food. So if the employees achieve adequate knowledge from the training, I believe that they will be able to do the good practices. As a result, the standard of the hygiene can be improved to another level.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Abdulaziz. I think this session, we've had a very good exchange of views from different perspectives, from certification systems and models to practical training and the traditional HACCP systems, and also something that we're looking forward to increasingly is the change of food safety culture in businesses from the top downwards all the way through the food handlers as well. On that note, I'd like to thank you all for your time. Vinod, Richard, Ms. Hala, and Dr. Abdulaziz. I know we're all very busy in our work these days, and it's not easy to find time out, but we appreciate your input, we appreciate your presentations, and it's been very useful as a learning curve to all of us and the participants too. Thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Bye.
We're going to take a 10-15 minute break just to allow you time to visit the exhibitors again on the virtual platform, and then we'll start again in 10 minutes, if that's okay, and going in towards the last session for the day of the conference. So we'll be back in 10 minutes time to look at session number 4 in the afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joining us across the globe from Europe, we have 2 presenters. We have Dr. Francesca Alievi. Apologies for my pronunciation, Dr. Francesca, if that's not correct.
No, it's perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Francesca is a senior lecturer and researcher in the JAMK University of Applied Sciences in Finland. She holds a BSc degree and an MSc degree, one in environmental land planning and engineering from the Politecnico di Milano in Italy, as well as a PhD in 2017 from the University of Turku in Finland. Her previous work has included Center for Research Center at Birelli Center for Food and Nutrition. She is interested in the environmental impact of food safety systems, advocates for systematic approach to food safety systems, and is working towards developing a pedagogical models for teach food sustainability issues in higher education. She's also one of the winners of the Pedagogy Team Award from the Association of Study of Food and Society. Joining Dr. Francesca is Annie Litonen. She's an education planner and portfolio manager for education export in the JMK University of Applied Sciences in Finland. She holds an MA focused in English language, culture, history, and society from the university. And I cannot pronounce the name, sorry, Annie, in Finland, the University of, perhaps you can help me on that later on.
Jyväskylä. That's
Jyväskylä.
difficult. That's
Okay.
a difficult word.
Jyväskylä in Finland.
Yes.
She has a long experience in international relations, project management, and designing educational programs for multicultural target groups. She's interested in intercultural competence, communication, and teamwork. Right, together they're going to present on the program which is developing a new approach to nutrition food safety, and with key focus on the postgraduate diploma in nutrition and food safety. Ladies, please carry on with the presentation.
Yes, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. This is Francesca, and together with Ani today, we will be telling you a little bit about this postgraduate diploma in nutrition and food safety that it's going to start soon in JAMK University of Applied Sciences in Finland, and we would like to show you a little bit what its contents are so that you can perhaps join it as well. Could you please move to the next slide? The next one, please. Next one, please. Thank you. I would like first to give you a little bit of general information about where we are coming from. So, as I said, we are from JAMK University of Applied Sciences. It's one university in Finland. And it's also one that has been awarded more performance-based funding by the Ministry of Education and Culture in Finland. And it's a quite big university. We have over 8,000 students and 700 personnel members. And we also have a quite wide international network because we have about 500 partners in many different countries around the world. And these include also partners where there are other universities where students can go in exchange, for example, and students that come as visiting students in our campus in Finland. So it's a very international university where we try to implement the latest technology and the latest pedagogy approaches available. Next, please. And as I said, we are in the context of Finland, and this postgraduate diploma that we are discussing here concerns foods. So what happens in Finland at the governmental level in terms of food? So we have this Finnish Food Authority, and one of the main, in a way, products that comes from the Finnish Food Authority is this national guidance, the national guidelines on food consumption, and these include different things. You can see some summary here in the slide. There are, of course, nutrition recommendations. And not only at the general level, but they also come from for specific age groups, for example, children and different ages of children. And also this guidance comes for different food groups and for different nutrients. And not only that, so the guidelines do not only look at the nutritional value of foods, but they also look at their sustainability. So the sustainability element is also very strong in these guidelines, and they give some suggestions to the citizens on how they can implement food choices that are also more respectful of the environment and more sustainable in the long run. So there is a quite strong guidance in this sense, and these guidelines are also applied at a different level. Of course, they can be taken up by individuals, but also they can be taken up by organizations. They can be taken up, for example, in public places like for example schools. Next one, please. And as I said, these guidelines are very well structured and pretty strong. So, for example, they also support and encourage businesses, operators to improve the nutritional quality of the Finnish diet and encourage changes in this sense. And also there is a National Nutrition Council, which since '54 monitors the nutrition and the health of Finnish people. and works in cooperation with the Finnish Food Authority to issue these national guidelines on nutrition. So this is just to give you an overview of where we are coming from in terms of what our university is about. Of course, I just gave you a very small summary, but just to give you an idea. And where we are in a way as a country, what happens in terms of food in Finland, in terms of Finnish Food Authority. Next, please. Finland is also a country where food safety is very strong. So the concerns and the attention towards the safety of food is really high, and there is a very strong commitment to the production of safe food. So companies also are very involved in these, and they comply with the national regulations very strictly. Next one, please. This results in very high levels of transparency and traceabilities in all the food chains, and also in the presence of very highly educated professionals in the food industry and also in the hospitality sector that comply with all the food hygiene regulations that ensure food safety in different sectors and at all levels. This also implies that there is almost zero appearance of, for example, salmonella in foods and raw materials, and almost no appearance of pesticides in foods. And we also have to keep in mind that the weather conditions in Finland are pretty special. So there is long, cold winters, and then short and really bright summers with a lot of light also during the night. So it's a sort of agriculture that really produces food in challenging conditions, but has the ability to produce food that is rather pure in terms of being able to be grown with, for example, very pure water and very low levels of pollution in the soil. So there is also, in relation to these and in relation to food safety, there is also other things that come with this. There is, for example, a quality control system called OIVA. And there is a strong cooperation between the different agents of the food system, so between producers and between food business and food safety authorities. So this is what Finland is about when it comes to food from the nutritional perspective, but from the sustainability perspective and also from the safety perspective. Next one, please. And coming from this background, we try to implement also these elements into our sustainable gastronomy program in YAMK. I would like just to say a couple of words about this to give you an idea of what we do in our university in relation to this and what is our expertise. So we focus on sustainable gastronomy, keeping in mind the notion of food system and trying to really bring in the perspective of different agents of the food system and try to convey these notions to students through very innovative learning methods. We use experiential learning a lot. This includes, for example, also some study tours. And we cooperate with other partners nationally and internationally. And we really try to give students the possibility to first get some theoretical knowledge on these topics related to sustainability, to food, to how food connects with different sustainable development goals, for example, and then bring into very practical assignments and very practical development projects. You see in the picture also an overview of what is our degree program in service business. And as I mentioned earlier, this is a degree program where we have students also from other countries, at least in some courses, and for part of the degree, because we have a lot of exchange students as well. Next ones, please. And this is an overview of some of our teachers, specifically the teachers that would be involved in the diploma I am presenting to you today. You can see some colleagues who are teaching courses together with me and who teach courses in the degree program. Then we have Annie that is here with me today, and she's in charge of the global education services. And also there is one person, Cisco, who is specifically responsible for our e-learning. So she helps us with everything that concerns learning online and online learning environments. Next one, please. So getting to the diploma. Here is an overview of what it is about. So we try in this diploma to bring together a wide range of issues. So we know that nowadays there is a lot of topics that are discussed around food. There are concerns for food safety. There are concerns about the decrease of environmental resources, strictly connected with, for example, climate change as well. And there are concerns on the nutritional side as well, for example, malnutrition and obesity. There are concerns on food waste. I mean, there is really a wide range of problems that come with the discussion on food. So with this diploma, we would like to give you some tools to navigate these challenges related to the food system, and to be able to manage those in the context of your working life. Also, thanks to new tools and new skills that can be useful for this purpose. This is here. There is also an overview of the structure of this diploma. As you can see, it's a 20 European study credits diploma, and it's structured with 4 different courses of 5 credits each, and an individual development project that is done at the end of the diploma and brings together all the elements that are presented in the different courses. Next one. The first course is on public health nutrition. So you see here an overview of the learning goals of this specific course. Of course, one of the main goals is to understand what we mean with public health and understand how public health is affected by nutrition, and how it affects what is the role with the essential public health services, and also recognize current and emerging global concerns in terms of public health nutrition. So what is happening around the world, what are the main issues, and of course also understand the role of different agents that contribute to public health, and that is of course nutritionists, but not only them, but other stakeholders, other agents are also contributing to that. And finally, also there is always in each course an element to connect the theoretical knowledge given in the course to your workplace, to your working life. So there is then also the possibility to implement the healthy nutrition practices in your workplace. Next one, please. The second course is measuring national nutritional quality in food services. So in this course, the idea is to understand what are the different nutritional quality management system available, and how they can be used to develop the nutritional quality of the food service industry. So once again, there is then a possibility, after having got familiar with this and after having identified what is also the level of the food service industry personnel competence in terms of nutrition, there is then a possibility to apply this knowledge, apply this quality management systems in your workplace, or at least recognize the possibility of using them in your workplace. Next one. The third course is on sustainable nutrition management. So, of course, the first goal is to understand what sustainable nutrition can mean, and of course, what other things that are related to that. For example, what is double burden of malnutrition? What are its various forms? How they can occur, and also how it can be prevented through, for example, a different type of operational management of nutrition. And once again, there is then the possibility to apply also this sustainable nutrition management in food business. Next one, please. The last course is food safety culture in food services. And there is, of course, the goal to understand what do we mean with food safety culture, how it can be planned strategically, and what are the different organizations and regulations that affect it, both at the local level and globally. And also recognize what is the meaning of education and communication for developing a better food safety culture. So once again, there is also here the possibility to apply this knowledge in your organization and understand what is the role of this food safety culture. So the commitment to a certain set of rules, a certain type of environment that supports this commitment, and how risk is perceived also in a specific organization. Next one, please. So I gave you an overview of the contents of the course, and of course this is just a summary, but there are a number of benefits that come with this program. First of all, through these 4 courses that I briefly presented to you, you would be able to get new perspectives for management of these issues in your organization. This is because also you will be working with a multicultural group of students, and also there would be visiting lecturers from other countries that can come and discuss specific topics for each of the courses. And this comes together also with virtual visits to some best practices in Finland. So all of this together really allows you to get a very international perspective on the issues that are discussed within the courses. And of course, everything is done also in the framework of Sustainable Development Goals. So you will get to know the theory better, but also even more, you will get to know how you can put them in practice within your workplace, your organization. And this, of course, will also come together with improving communication, improving systems thinking, improving a set of skills that you can use in your working life beyond this diploma. Next one, please.
About 3 minutes left, Francesca, just to summarize
Yes.
the presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, if you can just click so we can see all the. Yes, thanks a lot. Yeah, so just a couple of words on the online pedagogy in YAMK. So this is, of course, a diploma that will take place online. And this is something that we already had expertise with before COVID, because we have an online degree program. And as I said earlier, we have also specific people that help us with this. So you can be assured that online teaching and learning are very, very familiar for us. I will now leave the floor to Annie just quickly, if she can guide you through the practicalities of the registration for this diploma. So next slide, please. And next.
Thank you, Francesca. So I'll just quickly tell a few words about the practicalities and registration, because I'm sure that you're all thinking like, how can I join and where can I register? So the program starts in February 22 and runs for 8 months. It will end in September 22. And as Francesca mentioned, there are 4 courses, 2 months each. So starting from February, running until September 22. What it means weekly, you will have approximately 2-hour online webinars. They will be recorded, so it's easy to follow even if you're working and you can't attend all of the webinars. So it's flexible that way. Most likely it will be on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, late afternoons. So it's easy to attend even if you work during the days. More detailed timetable will be available closer to the start of the program on our website. Average time needed for the studies on a weekly basis, it's of course depending on many things, but it's approximately from 4 to 7 hours, depending on the participants' individual use of time and background education, etc. The prerequisites that we'd like the participants to have is a bachelor level degree, and of course sufficient English skills, because all the material, teaching and assignments will be in English. Group size will be minimum of 10 and maximum 30. Can you change the slide, please? And you can register until 15th of December this year via YUMP website. You can also write postgraduate diploma in nutrition and food safety into Google, and you'll get to the practicalities and the information on our website, and you can also register there. The price is in total 7,500 euros, and first you pay the registration fee of 500, and then later on you can pay in 2 installments, first in January and then the last one in March 22. So then there's some time for the payment, and it doesn't have to be done all at once. So that's quickly, I think I used my time. So if you can change to the next slide. So we very warmly welcome you to this postgraduate diploma, and we are looking forward to receiving any questions, and especially, of course, your registrations. You are warmly welcome to ask any further information from either Francesca or me, or also our partner Pillsbury Consulting, so Mr. Ali Danesh and also Abdul. I'm sure that will gladly give you any answers or any advice to this. So thank you for your time, and we very much welcome you to the program.
Thank you, Annie, and thank you, Francesca, for the presentation. What we've realized, I think, from the presentation so far this morning and also this afternoon is that food safety nowadays cannot be seen in its own. It has to be something that we need to look at from a nutritional point of view, from a management system point of view, a training point of view. So all the different elements of food safety are not just there by themselves anymore. So that's great. Thank you so much for the presentation, ladies. The next presenter is Professor Sharif Yusuf Omar, and Professor Sharif received her PhD in nutrition and food science and food microbiology and safety from the University of Jordan in 2004. During her PhD, she worked on enterotoxin production by some spores and non-spore forming food pathogenic microbes. She studied the prevalence of food poisoning in different regions within Jordan, Jordanian provinces. She's taught several courses in nutrition and food safety and microbiology, and she's also supervised undergraduate, postgraduate studies for students linked to her Laboratory. She's also a full member of the Organization for Women in Science for Developing Countries. Professor Sharaf, please go ahead and you can share your screen for the presentation.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Doctor. I need to make a share. Yes. Okay.
We can see your
No?
presentation on the screen.
Yeah. You could you see my presentation?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Rashid. Welcome to all. I am Sharaf. I will talk about the COVID-19 viruses and how its impact on our food safety knowledge, attitudes, and practices among our food workers in Jordan. My work, I did this research after lockdown by COVID-19 pandemic, and lasting for 3 to 5 months after that. We did it by first of all, I have to take some knowledge about the COVID-19, about the viruses. SARS-CoV-2 virus is still treating, until now, it's still treating the life of the many people all over the world. And And the WHO advises many countries to practice, to do many practices like social distancing to reduce the infection of, to reduce the infections by the virus, and the better advice to keep the workers at home to reduce the transmission of the viruses. And the current evidence prove that SARS-CoV-2 affect the respiratory system only, and we cannot consider it as a food poisoning or foodborne illnesses, and is transmitted through the coughing and sneezing only. However, there is no evidence that SARS-CoV-2 virus can be transmitted through the food. The knowledge about for the food handlers in many Jordanian factories and their attitude to hygiene food practice need to be re-evaluated during the pandemic case and in the light of the COVID-19 pandemic. So this study aims to evaluate the hygiene food practices among food handlers working food factories in Jordan during the pandemic crisis COVID-19. Our study covered around 25 food factories and around 500 food workers, including within our study, and from different locations in Jordan, from the south of the Jordan, north and the middle of the Jordan, and across the country in this study. Of course, this survey is done by using a questionnaire, and the questionnaire were filled by using a telephone or by email or by using social media like WhatsApp, Insta, or using Facebook. For this study targeted all food workers in food factories, and this question written in Arabic languages and categorized into 5 parts. Part 1 specialized to collect the data about the demographic features for the participants, like genders, age, level of education, and the level of experience in the food industry. Part 2, 3, and 4 were questioning about the knowledge, attitude, and hygiene practice. Part 5 associated with about the awareness of food workers about the COVID-19 requirements in the food factories and the major rules, or the control measures for the COVID-19 viruses in food factories. Questions were specified for food handlers' knowledge for potential sources of SARS-CoV-2 virus deals with common sources for COVID-2 virus, like shaking hands, touching contaminated surfaces, touching food packaging, and touching inanimate objects. Also, the questions were designed to evaluate the potential factors for contributing to COVID-19 among food workers and to evaluate the participant attitude and hygiene practice among food handlers working in food factories during the pandemic case. These questions required 3 options to answer this question. For example, yes, no, or I don't know for food handlers and the food handlers who recorded less or equal than 6 points were considered as a food worker with poor knowledge for the sources of SARS-CoV-2 virus. And the food workers who recorded more than or equal 7 points were classified as a good knowledge for sources of SARS-CoV-2 virus. The first results, like demographic changes, as we see here in the table, around 500 food workers summarized in this table, that around 29% of the participants aged between 19 and 23 years, and most of the food workers were male, 80%, and the education level were not satisfied. Around 20.5% didn't attend the school. 50% attend the primary level. Only 30% of the food workers had received food safety training courses. Around 60% of them had experienced in food field below 3 years. Meanwhile, they don't have a good experience in food field or the food sector. And 80% of them were from male, because according to our community, there's the male mostly working in food factories more than female. So the female is not a good participants to be worked in food factories. Yes, the scores here. This table shows the scores, mean knowledge scores for the food safety aspects for food handlers during COVID-19. Knowledge of the potential sources for the SARS-CoV-2 viruses among food workers in food factories show that 5.8, which means less than 0.6, which means poor. We consider it as a poor score for the knowledge of these participants about the potential sources of COVID-19 virus. Knowledge of the potential factors for controlling COVID-19 among food workers in food factories. So their knowledge about the factors for controlling COVID-19 range measured about, it was found to be 6.1, also means, according to our scores, poor, is not fair, little bit fair. And the knowledge of the good hygiene practice for food workers during COVID-19 scored 7.2. And the total knowledge for the food score for food safety was 18.9. Yeah, so it is a range between poor and fair about the potential sources, factors controlling COVID viruses, and about the good hygiene practice. Food handlers' knowledge for potential sources of the virus, SARS virus. Mean knowledge scores for the potential source of viruses was 5.8, which was considered as poor knowledge for the potential sources. Around 97% of the food workers believe that inhalation of large droplets during coughing and sneezing will play a major role for spreading of virus in a working area. This information comes from the media, from the news, and from the WHO news, which is were spread among the workers by TV, by Facebook, and radio. So they little bit good knowledge about the inhalation of large droplets will be a good source for the virus or the COVID-19 virus. It was noticed that also 88.9% of the food workers know that handshaking between each other will facilitate spreading of these viruses. Also, this has come from the media. On the other hand, the workers showed weak knowledge about the other sources for COVID-19, such as touching contaminated objects, touching their nose, mouth, eyes, touching any inanimate object surrounding them. They don't have a good knowledge as touching these surfaces will be a good source for the viruses among them. Yeah, this table shows that, for example, the potential sources for the virus, the COVID-19 virus, from the air, around 90%, I think. Inhalation of large droplets, 97 is a good knowledge. Touching raw food, 56 is a little bit fair knowledge. Touching packaging, 33 is poor knowledge. Handshaking, have a good knowledge about this. Handshaking, 88%, as we said before. poor knowledge about the touching inanimate objects, and 50% show that from water. The water will be a good source for the virus. Yes, and about the about the sources controlling COVID-19. Here we have to show their knowledge about the factors controlling to control the COVID-19 working area and during food processing, using personal protective equipments like disposable gloves, mask, sleeves, apron. 64% show yes, it will be a good source or a good method to control the viruses among food workers. And 18.6% say no, it will not be a good protection method or protection way to control virus among workers in food area. Check the temperature for the employees and other COVID-19 symptoms. Yes, it was as a daily routine in the morning before the workers coming to the working area during the entering the food factory. Each worker should measure their temperature. 77% from these workers say yes, this method will make a little bit control the spreading of the virus, while 23% say no, it will not be a good source or good methods to control virus. Adhere with the physical distancing around 2 meters. 2 meters, yes. 56% yes, and 31 yes say no, and 12 don't know. Use spray disinfectant and enhancing sanitizers and surfactants and surface sanitizers. 77 say yes, it will be a good method to control virus in working area. 12 say no, and 10 don't know. Using signs for wearing gloves and mask, and use floor signs for physical distance. This has become as a routine in our factories after the COVID-19 pandemic case. We should make on the floor if it's signs, good signs, clear signs, and we should write on these signs. You have to keep around 2 meters as a physical distance to prevent the crowding among the food workers. 70% say yes, it is a good method to control virus, whereas 14 say no and 15 say don't know. Use electronic reminders to warn the employees to keep physical distancing and clean and sanitizing their hands. This has become as a routine in our factories in Jordan, that the factory make an alarm, regular alarm. After half hour, the alarm should warn all the employees or the factory or the workers in the food factories. You should to clean your hands, clean your surfaces, and you should keep a physical distancing, just to remind them. 56% say yes, it is a good control method to control viruses, whereas 32% say no, this maybe don't have any effects, but 10% say don't know. Make a barriers between the employees and any guest at receiving area. Also, this has become as a routine in our factories, that making a barrier like plexi walls, for example, or glass walls between the customers and the employee in the selling point, at the selling point, or at the cash, and everywhere in the food area, everywhere they are using these barriers. These barriers will of course prevent the direct contact between the customers and the employee. 44 say it's yes. Others say no. 52% say no, it's not. That's because they said that these barriers will act as a carrier for the viruses and will transmit the virus between the customers, between customer number 1 and customer number 2, and so on. So because these barriers will not be sanitized regularly, yes, it will be left as not sanitized, so will be a good carrier for the viruses, not act as a barrier against the viruses. Identify the most used equipment and utensils. I make identification for the equipment and utensils like hand doors, scales, trolley, and confirm their cleaning and disinfecting. Yes, it's a good source. 51% say yes, it is a good source. Reduce and regulate the number of the employees in working area. It's become a must. We have to reduce the number of the workers in the food factories around 50%. at the first stage, at the first month from the COVID-19. Nowadays, raised to be reduce the increase the number to 70%, not 100%. Still, we not reach 100%. We have 70% all from the workers we have working. We have present the working area. Make
Dr. Sharaf, can I just interrupt you there? Can you just please summarize? About 2 minutes left for the presentation in terms of time constraint. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Make working teams to reduce the interaction between the employees. 50% say yes. The awareness of food workers for the minimum requirements to control COVID-19 is presented, and the mean knowledge score around 66.1, which considers as fair. Yes, they have a weak knowledge about the importance of the personal protective equipment to minimize the direct contact between the workers and the viruses. Around 64% believe that personal protective equipment will be used to control the virus. Also, 77% because of the using of disinfectant and so on. It was noticed that 56% of food workers adhere with the physical distancing in working area. Only 56 workers agree to use electronic reminders to keep physical distance among the food workers and sanitizing their hands. What about the hygiene practice of the food workers during the COVID-19? The mean knowledge score for the good hygiene practice during COVID-19 pandemic is 7.2, which considers as good. Around 71.5% of food workers thought that washing and sanitizing their hands before food preparation will reduce the food poisoning, and it was found that 76.5% believe that checking the temperatures for the food and the refrigerator very ridiculously important to control food poisoning during pandemic. 75% of food workers agree to wear mouth mask, gloves, and sleeve during food preparation. 70% of the food workers declare that wiping instead of washing is sufficient to keep food safe. Of course, this is not true. Most of the mistake is bad hygiene practice. Most of food workers were aware about using of the color coding as a technique to prevent cross contaminations. Yes, use color coding among the equipments used, like if it is sanitized or not sanitized and so on. In the conclusion, this research, the first research in Jordan, which measured that the food handlers' knowledge for the potential sources of virus, the potential factors for controlling among the food workers, and to evaluate the participants' attitude and hygiene practice among food handlers working in food factories in Jordan during COVID-19 pandemic. The overall score of this study was 63%. This relieved that food workers had fair knowledge about the food is not good, but fair, little bit is low. Still, we have weak knowledge about the food safety and unsatisfied result about the source of the viruses among food workers, and need more practice for controlling COVID-19 working area. The overall food safety results give a cause for more concerns about the status of food safety during COVID-19 pandemic, enforcing the governmental regulation, increasing the number of food safety training courses, and incentivizing positive attitudes, or increasing the positive attitudes of the food workers will improve food safety during COVID-19. And that's it. Thank you for listening. Yes.
Thank you so much, Professor Sharaf, for your presentation. A very interesting finding that you came through with your research. If you can stay with us for the panel discussion that we'll have after the next presentation, that would be very pleased. And if you can please stop sharing the screen on the on your laptop, so we can get. That's fine. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Last but not least, we've got last presentation today is going to be delivered by Campbell Mitchell. Campbell is the Regional Quality and Food Safety Director for Kerry Group MISA, that is Middle East, Indian subcontinent, Africa. He's based in Dubai since 2018. Kerry Group is a leader in taste and nutrition. They have over 150 manufacturing locations globally and over 18,000 products. Kerry has 2 facilities in the Middle East. One is in Sohar in Oman and one in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Kerry's also has a regional technology center in Dubai. Campbell was a group compliance manager for Al Mirai in Saudi Arabia in his previous work, where he worked for 9 years. Al Mirai is a very well-known company, as you know, largest food manufacturing company in the Middle East. And his previous roles also included Nestle, McCain Foods, and Fonterra in New Zealand. He graduated with a BSc degree in microbiology from Otago University, postgraduate diploma in business administration from Massey University in New Zealand. Campbell, please go ahead with the presentation. We can see the screen that you've put in terms of culture for breakfast, a very apt title following on what we discussed in the previous session speakers. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So you can see my screen okay? You can hear me fine?
Yes, we can. See you and hear you. Yeah.
Okay. So yes, look, it's a very Western breakfast, but the title of my presentation is Culture Eats HACCP for Breakfast. And the reason I chose that title is reference to a famous quote by Peter Drucker, a management consultant. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. And just like a good strategy, if you don't have good HACCP, sorry, a good culture, it doesn't matter about what your HACCP plan is, and you might as well not have HACCP if your food safety culture is not supporting it. So just to quickly go through what I'm going to discuss today, a bit of an introduction to myself and Kerry, and then some talk about how we can measure food safety culture, some of the examples of our food safety culture here at Kerry, and some examples of how we can improve food safety culture, and then how we can make ourselves audit ready every day. So introducing myself, so I'm from New Zealand. I've been in the food industry for more than 30 years in microbiology of food safety quality, like we said with Fonterra and Nestle and McCain Foods, and most recently in Al Mirai in Saudi Arabia for 9 years. I strongly believe in integrated management systems, so quality, food safety, health and safety, environment, sustainability, that's all part of risk management. And also in my job, I've been working in partnership with some other multinational companies such as Pepsi, Heinz, McDonald's, Mead Johnson, Friesen, Campina and Mars. So with a diversity of products as well. So, you know, there's food safety in every type of food that we make. My current role is Quality and Food Safety Director for MESA, which is Middle East, Indian Subcontinent, Africa. And so that's 80 countries with 3.4 billion people. So a lot of mouths to feed. And, you know, it's a very fast growing region, dynamic, and, you know, very exciting. I'm based in Dubai. We also have a technology center in Bangalore in India and one in Durban in South Africa. And we have 7 manufacturing sites and a few co-manufacturing. And we've recently done an acquisition in Central Africa with some new fast growing facilities there as well. Introducing Kerry. So Kerry is one of these companies that everybody in the food industry knows Kerry, but a lot of consumers aren't aware that they're eating Kerry products every day. And currently Kerry feeds more than 1 billion consumers every day. And our goal is to feed more than 2 billion by the 2030. So we're the world's leading taste and nutrition company. Our vision is to be our customers' most valued partner, creating a world of sustainable nutrition. And as we saw in some of the themes today, there was a lot of interest in sustainability, and it's certainly something that Kerry is very interested in. Our purpose is inspiring food, nourishing life, and because we're a world leader in taste and nutrition, we need to be thinking about innovation and sustainability every day, and that's supported by our values. So who is Kerry? We have more than 150 manufacturing sites around the world, more than 26,000 employees. Of those, more than 1,000 of them are scientists, and we produce more than 18,000 products. And a lot of people in Kerry don't know all the products that Kerry makes. We have locations in more than 32 countries, and as I said, the MESA region is growing very fast. Our head office is in Ireland, in County Kerry, in Ireland, and we've been around for about 40 years. So how do you measure food safety culture? So where do you start if you want to know what is your food safety culture in your facility? Well, the Global Food Safety Initiative published a position paper on food safety culture, published by a lady called Lauren Jesperson. She was the editor, and she looks at the different facets of food safety culture. But for me, really the most important bit is the people, the people and their behaviours. And one thing that Kerry has done recently, and a lot of companies use this culture excellence survey. It's a very powerful tool. More than 3,000 companies around the world use this facility. And you can get your employees to participate in the survey, and they're looking at the different factors of food safety culture. There's the people factor, the process factor, the purpose, and the proactivity. So by breaking it down, you can start to measure what elements are you strong in and what elements could be improved. And once you've got the measurement baseline, then you can start to think about how to improve, obviously. You can use the Culture Excellence Survey as part of the BIC additional food safety module. And then you can also pay to do the full package. And I believe the S-Safe company has also brought out a free tool that you can use for small to medium enterprises. Kerry also does an annual employee engagement survey, and people that have been involved in HR a lot understand that employee engagement can really drive the bottom line performance of a facility. It's that optional effort or extra effort that people can put in. If they're engaged, people go the extra mile. And so you get some really good business outcomes if you have good engagement. And also you can get some really good food safety outcomes if you have good employee engagement with food safety. So what's a good way that you can improve your food safety culture? Well, the health and safety people have been doing this a lot longer than we have in food safety and food technology. So for a long time, it's been recognized that as you work harder on being more proactive rather than reactive, there's what they call a Bradley curve. And your incident injury rate or number of incidents goes down as you change to a more management system type approach. And then also as you get this more interdependent type culture, the worker attitude changes, behavior changes, engagement changes, and you actually get an improvement in operational performance. So there's actually good incentive even on the bottom line for improving employee engagement and food safety behavior, as well as health and safety. A lot of you will recognize Frank Nyanis. So he's written a number of books about food safety culture. And I was fortunate enough to participate with him in a seminar that he did at the Dubai Food Safety Conference a few years ago. And we discussed a few techniques that you can use. Scientists have been studying, psychology and behavior-based science for a number of years, but most people that are talking about food safety are food scientists and technologists and chemists and microbiologists, and we don't know so much about the soft skills and the soft science. So I would highly recommend that you get a copy of Frank Nyanis's book and look at some of the ways you can use proven techniques and behavior science to change people's behavior. And the one that drove home most important to me was this Stanley Milgram pointing and gawking experiment. It's quite famous. And this psychologist got some of his students to go out on the street and stand on a street corner and start to point up at the sky. And before you knew it, other people on the street were also looking up at the sky, and some people were saying, "Oh, I can see something. What's that?" And really, there was nothing there. They were just using the power of a group of people to influence those around them, and that's what happens to us every day. We're always influenced by the people around us. And so, really, if you want to influence food safety behaviour, It's by the things that you do in the food facility. And for me, one of the most powerful tools that you can use to influence food safety behaviour, especially in a manufacturing facility, also, warehouses or processing lines and farms and distribution centres, is the American Institute of Baking, or AIB International Food Safety Standard. And you get the AIB auditor to come in with a torch and wearing his uniform, and then a whole lot of people come in together, and someone has a camera, someone has a clipboard, someone has a notebook, and they go through the facility, and everybody around them is thinking, what's that guy doing? What do I need to do to change my behavior to be part of what those people are doing? And the food safety standard for AIB is very well recognised. It's used in more than 10,000 facilities around the world. Most of the major food companies use AIB to measure their internal good manufacturing practices, and also as a sort of a yardstick or dipstick for their food safety culture. So AIB has been around for more than 100 years, and it's now well recognised that it is a really powerful tool for improving food safety culture. So even though I talk a lot about AIB, HACCP is very important. You have to have HACCP to have good food safety, and you have to have audits. So I always say it's like a three-legged stool. You need the inspections, you need the HACCP and food safety knowledge, and you need the audits. And only when you've got all three together do you have what can be regarded as a food safety culture. So now I'll talk about some examples of what you see as a food safety culture in a Kerry facility. So Kerry has introduced this safety first, quality always tagline, and safety and quality are always the first things that we talk about in any meeting or any employee gathering. Safety, food safety, and quality. So safety first, quality always. And one of the tools we use is based on the fundamental requirements of AIB, or good manufacturing practice. We've developed this tool called Kerry Golden 6. And Golden 6 was developed by our CEO. He brought it from his previous company, and it's really valued by all of our key customers globally. It impacts positively on our environmental monitoring programs, such as our Salmonella and Listeria swabbing programs. And it also is a really integral part of how we make our food factories audit ready every day. We have this, if you see something, say something and get it fixed culture. Don't walk past it. One way of describing culture is what you are able to walk past. What you walk by is what you accept, and then therefore that becomes your culture. So using something like Golden 6 becomes a leading indicator where you're looking for problems rather than waiting until you get a fire matter complaint or a customer complaint, or even, God forbid, a product recall. And this is really driven by our global leadership team. So Golden 6 is very simple. It's 6 categories of things that we need to look at, and I encourage the staff in the factory to do this at the start of every shift, every day, looking for any food safety issues that could become a food safety problem. So elements of pest control, water control, sanitation, housekeeping, employee GMP practices such as hand washing or wearing your hairnet properly, open product risks, and then even the condition of the building or the equipment. And we've developed these simple red flags that if people see anything like this, they should note it down and record it, and we have to do something about it. So part of the power of this tool is that we gather the insights. We give people a tablet that they can use inside the factory, obviously a hard protected tablet, and they record all the information, and then we can trend it globally across facilities, across countries, across the organization. And then we can look at trends, we can look at where we're weak and where we're strong, and what other facilities are doing better than some others, and we can share the learnings and best practices. So it becomes a global program one look, one feel. Everywhere you go in the Kerry facility, you see these tools being used. You have signage at the entrance to the facility. We give video presentations and training all about how you can improve these GMP practices. If there's some good practices happening, we produce a 1-point lesson that we can share with other facilities and let them know how they can improve as well. And then we give people reference cards so they remember what the red flags are. And then a key point about improving food safety culture is recognition. So if somebody does something good for food safety, we put their photo up on the notice board, and we give a bit of a statement about what they achieved. So the goal is you want to be audit ready every day. So in Kerry, we regard food safety as everyone's business, just like in World Food Safety Day, the GFSI and the World Food Programme. Once a year, we all get together and we celebrate Food Safety Day. So food safety at Kerry is integral to everything we do, and our safety first, quality always approach is deeply embedded in our day-to-day ways of working in all our facilities. Our expertise also in food safety helps other companies with food preservation, which helps prevent foodborne risks, which contributes to food security and health, and also reduces food waste. So having sustainability is also part of food safety. So reducing food waste, producing a global food system, and supporting a healthier tomorrow for everybody. So I'd just like to share with you a brief message from our leaders about food safety, how it's everybody's business, and part of our safety first, quality always culture. So let me know if you can't hear the video. Sometimes the video sound doesn't come through.
The very first thing that jumped into my mind is our 25,000 employees and making sure that they go home to their families healthy, safe and happy.
Our purpose is really about making wholesome, safe food.
We are a food company. We feed millions of people all over the world every day of the week.
It's about living and breathing a customer-centric way of working to produce the highest quality product that's the safest and most market appropriate to meet our growth objectives.
Our customers have got to have 100% confidence that every day, every hour, every minute, what we do is meeting their needs and all consumers' needs.
So if Kerry is about making better food in a better way for a better future.
So having this open, transparent culture around food safety will be a huge competitive advantage for us.
For me, it's all about growing together and winning together.
As we look to partner and as we look to ensure that our consumers are getting the best and the safest food possible, a fundamental expectation from Kerry and our suppliers is that they're designing and building food safety and quality into all the products they produce every day, every time.
So when our employees wake up in the morning and they go in and work on our manufacturing floor, we want them always to put the customer first in terms of food safety and quality.
The absolute fastest way to do anything is to do it right the first time. And for us, that has to be the ethos. If we put in place the right ways of working, if we think about all the potential risks and challenges we could have within a product, and we make sure that they're managed, all of that's going to run much more smoothly and our product's going to get launched on time.
And I think it's important to recognise that we only win when our customers win and we win together as a team.
So we want all of our employees to be engaged in this process going forward because we want them to be a part of this.
We're working with all our colleagues across the company to make sure that they understand everybody in the company owns safety.
At the end of the day, the most important thing to you and the most important thing to me are our families. And if we can feed the product to our families, then we've done our job.
Thank you. I hope you saw the presentation and got the sound okay. So I just want to leave you with a little take-home message, something simple that you can do in your own facilities. It was a mirror that I saw when I went to one of our Malaysia factories, and a stainless steel mirror, and it's painted with some sign so that after you've walked into the facility, you put on your hairnet, you put on your coat, your bed mask and your gloves, wash your hands, and then you look in the mirror to see what you look like, and you see the mirror is reflecting back at you, saying that quality starts with the person who's looking at the mirror. So that's a really good message to get people thinking about quality and food safety as they walk into the facility. And there's our global leadership team as we were visiting that facility. So really good, simple tool that you can use to help improve food safety and quality culture. So next we've got the question time, so I'll leave it there. If there's any questions, please share with me.
Thank you very much, Campbell, for the presentation. You've taken us through a whole range of controls and practices that you have in Kerry as a company that you've adapted over the years to improve safety, and that's very well done. We're coming on to the question session. There's Dr. Professor Sharaf Omar, and yourself, and me, of course, just to see what we can gather from what we've got back from participants. Just a question sort of with Professor Sharaf. Based on what the study that you presented, what would be the recommendations from this study? Professor Sharaf, what would be the recommendation that you would have from taken on board?
Yes, your question about the regulations to control virus.
No, recommendations. You have a study that you've taken.
Yeah. We strongly recommend our governmental organization over all the world have to control the virus among food workers, because this virus by different methods, because this virus is not is easily spreaded among the workers by first of all, for example, after the vaccine has been appeared in our life, so each worker should be vaccinated before coming. The vaccine is very important as a rule. We strongly recommend the vaccine.
Sorry, Professor Sharaf, can you put on your video, please, if that's possible? Yeah, we can't see you. We're just hearing you from the background. That's great. Thank you. That's much better. Thank you.
Yeah, I said that vaccine is very important now. My study was done before vaccine has been discovered. So I don't mention anything about the vaccine. We're talking about the physical distancing and the mask and using personal protective equipment and so on. But after the vaccine has appeared, vaccine is number one. We have to be vaccinated over all the world. This is just the way to control the virus anywhere. After we talking about the sanitation, about the physical distancing, about the using sanitizers and so on.
That's great. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Campbell Mitchell, we've just obviously heard a lot about the system that you have produced within Kerry in incorporating, let's say, lots of different elements of health and safety as food safety and culture and management systems over the organization. How would you, to use the word encourage, how would you encourage your suppliers to adapt to one of your standards that you implemented in Kerry, trying to understand how we can benefit from your experiences and link this back to the food chain from suppliers and going into your business where you receive raw materials?
That's a very good question. So Kerry, obviously we're in the ingredients business. You know, we're an ingredient supplier to a lot of major food companies, and ourselves, we have, you know, thousands of suppliers. And a big part of my role is developing food safety and developing food safety culture in our supply manufacturers and third-party manufacturers and co-manufacturers, joint venture partners. You know, we have quite a big relationship. And so we have a team of supply quality professionals all over the world who are developing, working in conjunction with AIB, developing the tools that the suppliers need to produce the food safely. And also our Vice President of Supply Quality is now President of the organization SSafe. So you can look that up on the internet. SSafe is a not-for-profit organization that's funded by companies like General Mills and Kellogg's and Kerry to develop suppliers and to help them to produce food safely. And recently they've developed a tool for food safety culture assessment that's free in conjunction with culture excellence. So there's some really good information there and available for suppliers, and obviously Kerry works with them to develop the Kerry standard of food safety.
Right. That's a good, it's a very good approach, because you have like a domino effect. It's knocking on to not just yourself as a company, but also businesses that are supplying to you. And hopefully, if that continues down the chain, that would be a positive output on that.
100%.
Yeah. Excuse me.
Yes, Professor
ask
Sharaf.
Yeah, can
Sure.
I ask Mr. Campbell one question?
Of course, of course.
Yeah. Mr. Campbell, you speak about the culture, food safety culture. Do you think that food safety culture should be started from the early stage of our education, in first stage of in education, like like kindergarten, KG1, KG2 in school? We have to start this education, food safety education, start the early stages of education. Do you think it's very important to start in this stage?
So yeah, most people in the food industry, we're talking about food safety culture of our manufacturing facilities, but obviously people need a basic understanding of food safety at home, and it's a public health requirement that the whole population reduces foodborne illness, because obviously it has a huge cost on the economy and on society as a whole. So the more knowledge that we have out there available for people in conferences such as this, where we're sharing knowledge with people, is only going to help everybody. Food safety is something everybody should be understand and be aware of. We shouldn't rely on one company being better at food safety than another company. It's something that we all have to share.
Yeah,
it's a very good question, Professor Sharaf, and I know that Annie and Francesca are no longer with us online, but I have some familiarity with the Finnish education system, what they have in terms of the approach of education in Finland is much more not just subject knowledge based, like we have maths and physics or whatever, but also you talk about nutrition, the value of food, different types of food that you are eating, how it impacts your health from an early age. So from school age, people have an understanding and an awareness of the health implications of food in terms of nutritional, also in terms of how you handle the food, like hand washing,
Yes.
cleaning,
Yes,
like that. So I think it has to go back to that basic level of education, starting from school and going towards the academic structure of the university, etc., as you go forward to your educational journey. And I think it's a very important point that Professor Sharaf has made, that really we should be looking at food safety not just at the point of when you're in the factory or catering business, but also before, even at home, at school, etc. And I think this approach is only possible if you have all the stakeholders involved in this. It's a public-private partnership which is vital in terms of securing food safety, and all that includes on a bigger picture in terms of public health and preventing foodborne illness.
Yes.
So I think it's not just the companies. The companies play a key role to show the providers, but also the regulatory bodies, the academic institutions, the laboratories, and all these different stakeholders have a seamless approach to food safety, and that will hopefully give a positive result to the industry and food that we eat every day.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for your participation. I'm not sure what time, of course, you're in Dubai, I understand, but in terms of the global approach of companies like yourselves, you have to maintain standards, meet regulatory requirements, and I think that's a challenging environment that you work in. First of all, thank you for the presentation, Campbell, Mitchell, and also Professor Sharaf, much appreciated. On a closing note to the conference, just going to summarize what we've gone through today, which has been a very long but very informative session that we've had throughout the morning and afternoon. We began the morning with Dr. Masoud, who talked about the quality and food safety strategy in Qatar with regards to the Ministry of Municipalities and Environment. Mr. Omar Hisham presented the regulatory summary of all the regulations within the GCC countries and how these are managed and updated on a regular basis. Josie Alex talked about the compliance standards in Qatar in regards to auditing and food safety management systems from SGS. We then moved on to traceability and blockchain technology, was presented by Sandeep. And I talked a bit about the enhancing food safety technology, using technology to enhance training and understanding of food safety. Then we talked about Internet of Things with Mr. Rida. Dr. Rafiq Kitab talked about the combination of food safety and public health inspections as a way forward. And the afternoon session was started off with Ms. Hala, who talked about the food safety culture and how culture is an increasingly important aspect of food safety and securing food safety throughout the globe. Mr. Richard Springer talked about the catering application of HACCP in food business in catering. Dr. Abdulaziz presented a study on how training impacts food hygiene practices, and we had a very good overview of standards of certification standards by Mr. Vinod from Bureau Veritas. And the afternoon session that we closed with, we talked about the approach to nutrition and food safety as from an academic perspective from JMK University in Finland. Professor Sharaf then put together a presentation based on the studies regarding the impact of COVID crisis in Jordan. And to conclude the whole conference, the afternoon session was the final presentation was Mr. Campbell Mitchell, who presented the importance of culture in any food business in towards securing food safety to prevent as a means of prevention of foodborne illness. Thank you much for all the presenters. And I'd like now to ask the organizers of the conference to say a few words to thank you for your presence. And from my perspective, it's been very enjoyable. It's been very informative. And we've heard lots of new ideas, lots of new outcomes that we can take on board for the future programs like this. And I'll hand you over to Nikki now, who's one of the organizers team, to say a few words from the organizing team. Thank you so much, everyone.
And that brings us to the end of Qatar Food Safety Conference. Let me begin by thanking you, Mr. Abdul Rashid, for being an amazing conference chairperson for today. Your expertise and knowledge have surely provided all our attendees and participants important points of learning that will surely enable them to adapt to further improve the food safety industry. We hope that all of you who join us today have gained new knowledge from each other, and we are confident that all our speakers' presentations are interesting and useful. I would like to once again take this opportunity on behalf of Nextfairs to thank our partners, exhibitors, and speakers who have added so much value to this conference. Allow me to share as well that we had a total of 1,951 exhibition and conference visits who participated today in exchanging views and expertise with our participants, exhibitors, and speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, we are looking forward to having you once again at Qatar Food Safety Conference 2022, which we will announce very, very soon. Thank you for your participation and have a great day ahead. Goodbye.